Okay, that should do it. Sorry about that. Um, anyway, what I was saying was welcome to my Tuesday live stream where we talk about photography and anything that might be new and what's going on. And I try to answer any questions I can that you might have about photography and Olympus cameras in particular. But any camera's fine. And I also like to see how everybody's doing, to check in and make sure everybody's doing okay. Things are going well here. No issues on my end, but uh, there's always something, right? Uh, nothing major, but things are going well. And I see Plato's here, Serge here, System on the Chore is here. Michael, good to see you. Plato, Rick, music sound gear. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you have trouble making it sometimes. I know it this time. And Steven is here, and Jerky's here. Jose, John follows. And I think that's everybody for now. So anyone that's checked in, but if there's anybody new here, I'm always curious to know if I have any new viewers. Just checking in for the first time, welcome. It's always good to have you. And I normally do these streams on Tuesday. But I've been trying to, let me just do some admin stuff on my channel. I've been trying to crank out more videos this month because last month was just dismal. I think I put one video out in a few streams. I don't know why. I just somehow got busy with something, right? I was teaching classes and getting that set up. But now that I have sort of a rhythm to the classes that I teach, and I have some of the curriculum made, I can devote a little more time back to the channel. And I'm trying to make, I don't know, just whatever comes to mind, I just put out a settings video yesterday, which was okay. It's being well received. And it's just a follow-up to the previous one. And I'll do more settings videos and they're just short videos on just kind of obscure settings that are in our cameras, right? I think, a lot of them are not very intuitive, or there's just only a passing mention in the owner's manual about it. So what I might do is spend a little more time on individual settings in the future, and explaining a little bit more how to use them and why you would use them, rather than just kind of going through the settings. I do mention briefly, you might want to do this because of this, but I think it'd be helpful to add a little bit more, go in a little more depth about some of the features in our camera, because our Olympus cameras, particularly the Mark II series and now the Mark III for the M5 and EM1s, have so many features in them. And it's just a shame to not take advantage of them if you can. Not every feature is for everybody, right? But some of them can be useful in your photography, and hopefully you get more out of your camera and take better pictures. Let's see. Plato has a question. Oh, John Yutse is here. Hi, John. Appreciate you coming in and all of your support as always. And if you'd like to support the channel, I do have a link. Yeah, over here. Just robtrek.com/support. Every little bit helps, I can tell you that. But let me just get a quick something to drink from my, I need to wet my whistle before I kind of go into these lenses, because I do want to talk about those. They're interesting. All right, thanks for everybody for waiting. I just got some carrot juice. I didn't realize carrot juice had so much sodium in it. It's 150 milligrams per 6 ounces. This is about a 10-ounce coffee mug. Wow. So yeah, I'm close to 300 milligrams of sodium. I'm watching my sodium intake because I've noticed I have a little bit of hypertension, and I cut back on the sodium, and my blood pressure's come down some. But it's amazing how much sodium is in food. Just shocking. I'm up with this glass. I'm up to like already 1,300 grams of sodium, which is a little more than half what the daily recommended allowance is. And I haven't had lunch or dinner yet. So maybe just a bowl of rice or something later. I don't know. My God. Oh, Brad just got an EM5 Mark II. Congratulations. Yeah, that's a great camera. It has everything in it. I mean, the video side, there's no 4K, but other than that, it has everything you could possibly want in the camera. And Jerky says he was curious about live composite and watched the video. I need to try. Yeah, I need to do some more live composite videos, and I really want to do some more videos on Flash, because that's been a game changer for me. Flash photography, you know, my images with and without Flash are dramatically different. But okay, let me go back to this question from Plato here. My thoughts on the new lenses. So I believe one was the 40-150 f4, and the other one was what, a 20 millimeter f1.4. And I didn't really dig into the specs of like the size and weight, but they look, you know, reasonable, right? Like the 40-150 looks like it's about the same size as the 12-40, and the 20 millimeter f1.4 probably a little bigger than the current 25 f1.8. So those are the two primary lenses. And then I just saw Robin posted one. Robin Wong posted a video about the, was it a Yongnuo 25 f1.8 or 1.7? I didn't watch it, but so there's lenses coming out for Micro Four Thirds. It seems on a regular basis, at least, which is great. I mean, think about it. This is maybe the third lens this year released, because they had the 8-25 come out. Now they got the 40-150 and now a 20 millimeter. And that in of itself is, I think, a great sign for Micro Four Thirds system in general, because I wouldn't be making lenses if the cameras weren't selling. And whatever that volume is, if it's, you know, going up or going down, there's enough volume to justify releasing these lenses, because it's just as easy for a company to say, we're not going to release it. You know, it's just the cost of manufacturing and cranking them out and distribution is not going to be worth it. But they seem to think it's worth it, and that there's enough market out there for these lenses. So that's my first thought. Is I'm very happy about the release of new lenses. Now, with respect to the lenses themselves, they're both pro lenses. I assume weather sealed, and I watched Jimmy's and Peter's comments on those lenses, but I haven't seen Robin Wong's yet. I'm still need to catch up with his. But for me personally, I you know, having a pretty good lens collection already, they don't excite me as much as they might have if I was just starting out. And I do like the 40-150 f4 for myself more so than, say, the 20 millimeter f1.4, because the current lenses that I have that hit the telephoto range of 150 millimeters is like the kit 40-150, which I love. You know, I paid $99 for it, and that's at f5.6, so it's only one stop darker. And then I have the 14-150. Oh, excuse me, 14-150, which is an f1.8 or f5.6 also, maybe a little higher f5. I can't remember. Where is it? I don't know. It's somewhere, but generally it's about a stop slower. But the key difference really, so the one stop difference in light wouldn't be enough for me to want to get a 40 to 150 pro lens at f4. It's just one stop. Instead of ISO 200, I shoot at ISO 400. Whoop-de-doo, right? But the key thing I would like to see is how sharp is it really at 150 millimeters? Because when you're doing telephoto work, you're birding or you're trying to capture something at a really long distance, generally speaking, maybe 100 yards, 100 meters away. And at those distances, you have all kinds of issues, with particularly atmospheric distortion. If it's a hot day in particular, there's a lot of heat waves and things. And if it's a cold day or humid day, you might have fog, or just the humidity in general can cause problems. So having a lens as sharp as it can possibly be at long distances is, definitely definitely something you need for telephoto lenses. You don't want a soft telephoto lenses at their long end. And the 40 to 150 and the 14 to 150, they do okay. They're okay for long distance. I mean, they're just casual shots. But if you need to crop in at all, because I was taking a picture of a crane a couple days ago with one of the viewers here. I went on a photo walk, and this thing was not even 50 yards, 50 meters away from me, and I could not get a sharp picture of it at 150 millimeters. And I can't blame it on atmosphere or anything else. It just simply, the lens was too soft to really get any kind of detail in the feathers and the beak, or just was not acceptable. So I would love to have a 40 to 150 that was sharp. Now, Olympus already has the 40 to 150 f2.8. But I haven't bought that lens because it's just a little bit too bulky. I really don't want to carry that around. I'd rather just carry my kit 40 to 150 or 14 to 150 rather than have to lug that thing around. It's just me, right? Because I'm not a hardcore birder, right? I don't shoot birds a lot. But if this f4 is pretty compact from the single image that I saw of it, and that would be very attractive to me, that if I could get a sharp lens at 150 millimeters without having to lug around, the larger one, that to me is very, very attractive. And I would definitely consider that lens, but it's probably going to be like $1,000. I mean, it's not going to be a $500 lens. It's going to be like $1,000, or more, because the f2.8 is $1,500, and I'm talking list price is $1,500. So they're going to put this one at $1,000, $1,100, $1,200. Seems to be kind of their go-to price, $1,299. And with any luck, it'll be released soon, and maybe there'll be a Black Friday day sale, but I seriously doubt it. Lenses that just get released, there's no Black Friday sales. Maybe $50 off, something like that. But they don't discount lenses that just come out. I think if this lens was $800 or $900, it would do really well. It would sell really well, but it's not going to be. There's no way. I don't know what the pricing, if there was any pricing announced, but I seriously doubt it's going to be less than $1,100 or $1,200. And at that price, I'm thinking, my kit lens is not that bad. If I was a hardcore birder, wildlife type photographer, then it's a no-brainer. But I'm not. I'm just if I see a bird on a photo walk, I'm happy to get a shot of it, but I'm not going out specifically for that. Usually, I'm more of an architectural, type photographer. I like structures like gazebos and buildings and street photography, and that having a sharp 40 to 150 for me would not be money well spent, right? Which brings us to the 20 millimeter f1.4, which is a great focal length. It's just a little tighter than I'm sorry, it's a little bit wider than the standard 25 millimeter and a little tighter than the 17. So it's right in there. It's close enough to both that I think if you don't already have the 17 or the 25, this lens, the 20 millimeter f1.4, would be a pretty awesome choice. And that's where my problem is. I already have a 17 and a 25 f1.8, and they're great lenses, sharp, more than sharp enough for me. I don't really need a 20 millimeter f1.4, but I would be tempted to trade in those two lenses, my 17 and my 25, to get that one lens. It's tempting. It's tempting. But like I said, because I don't need a 17 and a 25 really. If I go out, I'm going to take the 17 every time. And the 25, like even right now, I'm using the cheapo Panasonic 25 f1.7 for this live stream. And it's the perfect focal length for this. At least I think so. 20 would be too wide. 17 is definitely too wide. But for about everything else, the 20 millimeter, it seems to me like the perfect street photography lens. And that's why I would be tempted by it, to get a super sharp, fast 20 millimeter lens is very tempting. So both these lenses I like a lot, but they're just going to be priced, my guess would be $700 for the 20 millimeter f1.4. Just a guess. I don't know if anybody knows there was a list price released. If they announced that, let me know. But I would guess around 700. So at 700, if I trade in my other two lenses and get it, maybe I might get that lens, because I do like that focal length a lot. And I like the 40 to 150 focal length a lot, but at 11 or 1200, which is my guess, I don't know if I like it that much. You know what I mean? So I think they're great lenses. If you don't have anything else already, they'd be great first lenses, even though they're a little pricey. You're talking probably $2,000 for the pair, right? And that's an easy purchase to justify if you're coming off another camera system, or you've been shooting photography for a long time, so you know what these lenses cost and what their value is. And I think at those prices, the value is there. You're going to get your money's worth. It's a matter of, is it worth it to me, or is it worth it to you to get that lens at that price? And that's a very subjective number. I think objectively speaking, the prices that they've been releasing the lenses at are fair, not a smoking deal. Like their 40 to 150 kit lens, even at full price, $199, is a smoking deal for a lens like that. But to save one stop of light and then charge 10 times as much or 5 times as much, whatever it is, that's a tough call. That's a tough call unless you really know you need it. But that's what I think about those lenses. I think I'm more excited by the fact that they are releasing lenses and putting them out there for us to use or have available to us as photographers than I am the lenses themselves. But we'll see when it comes out. I'm kind of, budgeting now for another camera body. Like I need another camera. But I'm praying that the Pen F2 Model 2 comes out. That would be if I had to choose between a lens and a Pen F Mark II, Pen F Mark II all day long. I mean, it remains to be seen what it is, but most likely it'll be everything we want it to be, right? And it's just one of those cameras that are a must-have for me, for my collection, because I just like that kind of, I like the craftsmanship and the quality that they put into the original Pen F, and of course the additional specialized features that they have. The Pen F2 can only be better, right? Better autofocusing, and a mic jack, for God's sake, because I do video. A mic jack would be so useful, but and a new sensor maybe. I'm content with the 20 megapixels we have now. I get great images from that. But yeah, whenever the Pen F2 comes out, that's going to be on my short list. I mean, that's going to be in the top 5 things I have to buy. Because there's other things I really need. I need a bigger monitor. This is really just too small now for the doing my classroom work and my live streaming. It gets by for photo editing and stuff. It's fine. This monitor is actually, I looked it up. I'm now 8 years on this monitor. It's a widescreen 1080p monitor, so it's 25 something by 1080, and it's still hitting 99%, sometimes 100% sRGB color space. So it's the color and the brightness and the size is perfect for me. But for photo editing. But for everything else I do, I really need a bigger screen. So I can do split screen on a single monitor instead of setting up this like array of monitors like I've had in the past. Now I'm just using 2 monitors today. But yeah, I need a monitor. I want a Pen F2. I got other things I want to get, but lenses are pretty much, not in the top 10 things I need to get right now, because I have every focal length I could possibly want covered. Not necessarily the sharpest lenses, the 40 to 150 kit, the 75 to 300 kit. Not the sharpest lenses in town, but I'm fine with it, and that's why the lenses, they have to be something really exceptional at this point, because I have everything covered. I just don't need a lens for its focal length anymore. I might need it for being sharper or faster, and I have the focal lengths I need covered already, and they're fast enough, f1.8s. Going to f1.4 is not a big deal. I don't know. You can talk yourself into anything, right? If you want it. That's why I probably need to get a second dry cabinet, because I just can't fit everything into one. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the lenses. That was a long answer. Wow. And yeah, the 150 is short for if you're really into birding. The 300 plus or minus a teleconverter. David Crooks has really good luck with the 100 to 400 lens, which is $1,500. Now that to me is a good deal. I think they priced that one perfectly for what it is. Better than perfect. I think it's a little bit on the low end for what it is, the 100 to 400. And that would be another lens I'd have to consider instead of the 40 to 150 f4. Because if they're going to be priced pretty much the same, why am I really buying this lens? Am I buying it for the long end? I might as well get the 100 to 400. If I'm buying it for the sharpness between 40 and 150, which is, it's a Trinity lens, right? It's a typical portrait event type photography lens, then I'd get the 40 to 150. I'd have to give it some thought. But as you know, I don't even have the 100 to 400, because it's just at $1,500, I'm thinking, I have a 75 to 300, close enough. Druid says, what do I think about the 75? I think it's a great lens. It amazes me how sharp that lens is. It's probably the sharpest lens I own of all the lenses I have. The focal length's a little tight for a lot of things, but I have several photo walks that I've done with that lens, 3 or 4 recently, where I got really good use out of that focal length. And, you're not going to use it for birding really or things like that, but you could use it for street photography. You could use it for event photography. You can use it for just general photo walks. It's a little tight, but it's not so tight that you can't work with it at all, right? And the images it generates are just fantastic. I mean, they're just so sharp. And the bokeh is beautiful on it. And I think that lens goes for $700, give or take, used, new, refurbished, whatever, $700, right? That's a fair price, or more than fair price. I'd say slightly. I put it down as a good buy at $700. And I have no complaints about that lens at all. None at all. I mean, I've had it for a few years and I didn't use it much, but then when I took it out a few times, I'm like, wow, this lens is really amazing. And I attached some extension tubes on it for some of my photo walks. And you can get really close, nice close-up photography with it. Super sharp. And being at f1.8, man, you have no problems keeping your shutter speed up so you don't get any motion blur or camera shake. And of course, like I said, the bokeh is very, very smooth if you're going for that. It's just, so it's, like I said, I think it's probably the sharpest lens I own. I haven't seen any other lens produce the kind of results that one does. When you're pixel peeping, backing off at normal viewing angles, any of the pro lenses are really good. You're not going to be able to see any difference between any of the pro lenses. But when you start to pixel peep, I can tell you that 75 is definitely my strongest lens in sharpness. Does the 75 wider with extension tubes? It's not a wider field of view. It's narrower, if anything, because you're getting closer to the subject. But I was able to get this close and this close depending on the extension tube. And you can fill the frame with something that's you can probably fill the frame with a 1 or 2 inch subject, like a little small group of flowers or a single flower. It's, like I said, just search my channel for 75 millimeter short trek. And I have several short treks using the 75 millimeter. And I was using extension tubes in some of them. So you can see some images there, some photos that I took with it. And like I said, it's amazing, but it doesn't, wider is not the right word. It makes it narrower. The field of view narrows down because you have to get very close, right? This is interesting. I'm not sure what Lasibis is saying. Compared to my 40 to 150 Pro, I find f4 lenses push higher ISOs. Yeah, because they're a stop higher, right? Yeah. So basically what Lasibis is saying here is that, we got one stop difference. So if you're shooting it in low light, outdoors in low light is like ISO 1600, right? ISO 3200. So let's say you're at ISO 3200 with an f2.8, you're going to be at ISO 6400 with an f4 to keep that same shutter speed. So that's a big deal, right? From 3200 to 6400. But in decent light, if you go from 200 to 400 or 400 to 800, it's not that big a deal for most daylight type shots. It's only when you start getting into twilight and shaded, very shady twilight type scenes where you're pushing ISO 1600, 3200, and one stop makes a big difference in lower light. I don't need a new monitor or other new gear. You do need to win the lottery. Oh yeah, lottery would be nice, but I don't gamble. Lottery to me. Oh, sorry, Ellie. Lottery is basically gambling, right? I need my dollar. I might buy a lottery ticket. I bought a lottery ticket once when it got up to like hundreds of millions of dollars. When they get these mega jackpots. I think I bought it once, like 10 years ago or something. But um, yeah. But yeah, I don't need a new monitor. I'd like a bigger monitor so I can stream and do everything a little better. But it's not critical, especially when I'm doing my live classes. They It'd be helpful to have a larger monitor so I can see the people's faces, because I do it in a Zoom style type thing. So I can see people's faces and questions and how they're reacting. It makes a big difference. It's nothing like in-person teaching, though. I really enjoyed in-person teaching. Uh, but anyhow, yeah, I don't need any more cameras or lenses or anything. They would just be simply uh, basically lateral moves if I buy anything, because I have, like I said, well, anyway, I have all that stuff. So Rick is right. But 8 years on my monitor, both my printers died, but one was like that one was 10 years old. No, 9 years. I bought it in 2012, so it was 9 years old, and it just died on me. Uh, and then my other printer wasn't that old, but I didn't use it enough, so the print head dried out, and I tried cleaning the print heads, and I just could not get it to work again. Yeah, Dell has some good monitors, true. I was looking at a ViewSonic actually. They're expensive though. And I was debating between just getting a 4K TV that has a huge color gamut. But I understand a lot of the TVs have a BGR, uh, blue, green, red pixel pattern versus red, green, blue. And they say that can make a difference in the legibility of fine text on your monitor. So I'm a little leery of that because being able to read the text is the whole reason I'm getting a bigger monitor because of my dying eyes, even though supposedly I have 20/20 vision. uh, yeah, the Trinity F4s. I had yeah, for my Nikon I have the 70 to 200 F4, which is just a fabulous lens. That's another lens I can't part with. I just can't part with. The D750 Nikon that I have, I'm not too attached to that camera in of itself, but I'm very attached to the lenses I have for it. I have the 70 to 400 f4 and my 35 millimeter f2. It's a Zeiss Distagon. Those two lenses really are the only reason I'm keeping that D750 is because I just love those lenses, and they don't adapt too well to my micro four thirds because they're just so heavy. You know, even my 35 millimeter f2 Distagon, it's like 700 grams by itself. It's, you know, it's all metal, but man, that lens is magical. And then so is the 70 to 200 f4, both an f mount, but they just don't adapt well to micro four thirds at all. I've tried using the 35 f4 or f2 a few times. Maybe I'll take it out on a photo walk and see. But it's manual focus, and not that that's really a downside, but I don't know. I'll give some thought to that. That would be fun, and I really want to get out and shoot some film. I've just been itching to shoot film recently, so I need to get out. And my 35 f2 on my Nikon film cameras, man, that is nice. That lens. But anyway, that's why I'm stuck with this D750, is because I can't let go of my lenses. Some of the Nikon lenses I can part with is like my 85 f1.8 and the 150 to 600 Tamron I got, and you know, countless other lenses that they were fine for what they were, you know, but the 70 to 200 f4 and the 35 f2 I have were just magical. They are fantastic lenses. I'll tell you a couple lenses I had that I didn't like. If you guys have been following me a long time, you know what they are. I used to have the Sigma Art Series lenses, the 50 f1.4, the 18 to whatever it was, f1.8, and the 24 to 105 f4. And of the three, the 25 to 105 or 100 f4, that has got to be one of the sharpest lenses I've ever owned. That was an excellent lens, but man, that thing was like 1,000 grams. I mean, it was heavy. And if I wanted to carry those three lenses with my Nikon and maybe a flash, my God, I needed like one of those 20-liter backpacks, you know, to carry it all. It was just too heavy, the system. And that's why I switched, you know, or that's why when I saw Micro Four Thirds, how good the quality was from our Micro Four Thirds cameras and how much smaller the system was, I was like, screw that. I sold all those Trinity lenses or Sigma lenses because I knew I would never take them out again because they were just so damn heavy. And the image quality was fine, but it wasn't worth the trade-off in size and weight. And that's and the trade-off on image quality with Micro Four Thirds is minimal when you're at base ISO, right? Or low ISOs. It's pretty minimal compared even to full frame, the trade-off in image quality. Because, you know, there's always a tiny bit more noise, a little bit less depth of field at certain fields of view, but those are pretty minimal to me compared to full frame, versus the huge advantage of having a much smaller, more compact system to take with you. Yeah, Play-Doh, everything's gone up in price a lot. I agree. It's crazy. And 2020 is average. I did ask the doctor about that, and she said I have good vision or average vision, right? Good, average is kind of the same thing. But I said, have you ever run into anybody that's had like exceptional vision, you know? And she said it's rare. She said it's rare somebody has better than 20/20 vision. So I have to count myself lucky, I guess, that I have that. So to me, it's good. Good is a subjective term, right? I would say I have good vision. Average is a little bit more objective. I have average vision. Subjectively, I have good vision. And people that have excellent vision, again, a subjective term, but you know, I was like, are there people out there that can like read the Constitution when it's written on a grain of rice? You know, there's people that paint on a grain of rice, like the entire Bible or whatever. They write on those things. She said it's extremely rare that she ran into it. Oh, funny thing about my eye doctor, if you're a sci-fi person, you'll appreciate this, but her name was Dr. Smith. So I got a kick out of that. Oh, I'm going to go see Dr. Smith today. So if you ever watch Lost in Space, you might remember Dr. Smith in the series. And Pascu Paul says, got confused when you spoke about Sigma lens. I have no idea about Sigma for Nikon because I have the 56 f1.4. Yeah, I bet it is. I bet the 50 and the 56 f1.4 is really a bargain. I think it's like $399, like $400, if I recall. That's a bargain. And yeah, the weight 280 grams. That's reasonable for a fast, long lens like that, or relatively long. That would be an awesome lens. That lens is tempting, actually, to me. But instead of a 56 f1.4, I'd probably go for a 60 macro lens because having that extra speed is not quite as critical to me. Going from 2.8 to f1.4, yeah, it's a big deal, but I don't know. They're really very different lenses. So having both wouldn't be, nobody should, have any problem with having both those lenses. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick the 60 macro because it's a little more versatile and it's about the same focal length. But yeah, the 56 f1.4, definitely. I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about that lens. That all they say is tack sharp. Yeah, you got me thinking now about that lens. I gotta stop. $400, man. I got a lot of things I can do with that. Like buy a monitor, which I need more than a lens. And Paul's adding, you do have the 60 macro and the 45 f1.8. Maybe because I do a lot of portrait. Oh, definitely. Definitely the Sigma is going to be sharper than the 45 f1.8. I don't know it for a fact, but just from anecdotal evidence or comments that I've been getting from the viewers here, that lens is superior in just about every way. It's kind of like the 75 f1.8. Like it's an excellent sharp lens with great bokeh and compact size. So yeah, but the 60 f2.8, like I said, you can have both. It's not really an overlap. They're just different lenses. But if I had to pick one, it'd be the 60 for me because I'm not really a portrait guy, but I wouldn't mind doing macro a little bit more. Andrew asks, how is the AF for the 60 macro and non-macro setting? Always use it for macro, and it's AF sucks compared to the 30 macro. The AF on the 30. I have no idea because I don't own that lens. I've never heard anybody complain about the AF for regular type shooting. But if your experience is that it's not as good as the 30 macro, part of that has to do with, the 30 macro is a wider field of view, so it's got more contrast points to pick from, right? So it's going to focus faster. And what is the 30 macro? Is it a faster lens and aperture? Let me look. Olympus macro. It's an f3.5, so it's actually a little slower. So it's got to be because of the focal length that it's just picking up more points of contrast because of the wider field of view. So it's having less trouble focusing. Having less trouble finding things to focus on, so to speak. But that is a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a guess. I don't know why the 30 macro would focus better than the 60. And Music Sound Gear uses focus stacking a lot with the 60 macro, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a very versatile lens. You can use it for, anything that you need 60 millimeters for. You can use it for macro and for regular photography. I was watching IT Crowd last night where Moss had the picture of himself on the bottom of the mug. That was a great episode. Okay. What else is new? I guess we talked about the lenses. I guess there was a couple of patent registrations or something for new cameras from Olympus, so that'll be interesting to see what comes out. And Marco's here. How you doing, Marco? It's okay. I'm just glad you're here. Any lifers on the list? I don't know what list you're talking about. And Rick says, Rick says he has exceptional vision. Yeah. Yeah. People around here are lunatics and driving too. Oh, congrats on your EM1 Mark III. Fabulous camera. I love shooting with that camera. I mean, I use it primarily for my professional work because it has the 4 custom dials on top. I mean, 3 was enough, but it's, 4 is better, right? The 4 custom modes on the mode dial. And I can tell you the EM1 Mark III is by far superior with the autofocus with face detect. By far superior to the EM1 Mark II. And then I also like the handheld high-res shot mode, the live ND. I love everything about it. And there's nothing on that camera that you can't do with an EM1 Mark II. It just takes a little more work. Like if you want high-res shot mode, you have to use a tripod, but you still get a great picture, right? And if you want ND, just buy an ND filter. You don't have to use live ND, but it's nice to have it built in, right? So it has a lot of nice to haves. And the Starry Sky AF is pretty amazing. Which reminds me, let me put this up before I answer this. I'm going to put this up so I don't forget. I did try that push the lens reset button to set infinity focus, and that seems to work. I tried it on some stars the other night. I need to do it again on a tripod, maybe tonight. But it seems like if you push the lens release button, some of you have reset lens on in the menu system. So I used to always just turn it off. I didn't see the point of that, but now I do. It seems like it does when you do this, the lens release button, push it and let go. It resets the lens to infinity focus. I thought that was interesting. I'm going to do that. I'll do that in one of my settings or tips video. Once I confirm it with a few different lenses that it actually does focus to infinity, meaning like if I want to focus on the stars or the moon or anything, that it actually does work consistently with different lenses and different camera bodies, then that will definitely be a video, because that's something I've never heard of until now. And when I started looking it up online, apparently other camera manufacturers do have that feature in some of their cameras. Because, the old days we had manual focus and there would be an infinity mark on the lens itself. But with all our autofocus lenses, they go past infinity now. So it's hard to find the point of infinity focus manually. But if it's just built in with a switch like that, that's pretty amazing. So we'll see. Okay. HM is asking, can you help me with correct setup of the M10 Mark II using fully manual lenses? I appreciate your help. Yes, I actually have a whole video on that. let me give you the video number, and then I'll just give you the highlights. I think I have 2 videos on it. Okay, there's one I did. Wow, it's been 4 years now. But it is episode number 9. Episode number 9, I have a tutorial for the EM10 Mark II, how to set up the IBIS and focus peaking when you're using adapted lenses, which in effective is you're basically using manual focus, right? So if you're adapting lenses or you're doing manual focus, this would be a good video. And then the other one is, that's the one you want, episode 9. There's another episode here that's even older, but that's more for the Pen F. It's episode number 2. And the Pen F has additional features that the EM10 Mark II doesn't. So I would ignore episode number 2 and go to episode number 9. But the gist of it is when you adapt a fully manual lens, and I assume that's what you mean, is you need to make sure that the IBIS focal length is set up properly. I might be able to just show you I'll give you the 2 quick pointers real quick. Just for the sake of, since we're here. That's the right screen. Why is it the wrong? So go into your super control panel. If I can get to it, hold on. I'm in movie mode. Let me get to a manual. Okay, so we're in aperture priority. Go into super control panel. And you see the SIS auto? I can't do it because I don't have a manual focus lens on here, but if you click the info button here, you should be able to enter. Well, if I just take the lens off, that'll be the same thing. What you can do is you click the info button, and then in the bottom right, you see where it says 8, 9. Put the exact focal length of the lens that you're using. So if you're adapting a 50 millimeter vintage lens, you want to put 50 millimeters in there. Don't put 100 millimeters. Don't double. Okay. And then once you have that set, that's for the IBIS. And then you want to go into your D menu. And I believe it's in here. Peaking settings. Set your peaking color, your intensity. Start with normal, but you can do low, high, normal. Start with normal, but see what works for your lens. And you can pick varied colors. You know, white is pretty handy. Image adjustment brightness on or off. I like to turn this off generally, but try it with it off first, and then try it with it on later. And then what I do is I go in the button menu and I assign the function 1 button to be peaking. So that'll allow me to where's my what was I saying? Yeah, I assign the peaking function to a function button. It can be any of them, whatever you prefer. But then you can toggle the peaking on and off when you need it, because it's not going to automatically come on. You have to actually activate peaking. So set your peaking, set your IBIS focal length, and you should be good for adapting lenses. But you can always watch the video. I just take, 10 take like a half an hour to tell you the same thing I just told you in a couple of minutes, but it's a little more thorough, right? Okay. I'm just backing up. Some comments there about the 60. That's not a bad deal. $700. It's a great camera. Yeah. Whoops. Is there a big difference between the Ollie 12 to 40 f2? It's 2.8 Pro and the Ollie 12 to 45 Pro. And do you have a preference? I think in terms of sharpness, you're not going to see any difference. And in functionality, like in practical photography, there's no difference. The difference being only the one stop of light, right? f2.8 versus f4. So if you're shooting in low light a lot, the f2.8 is going to be the better choice because, you know, in low light, you're at ISO 3200 at f2.8. But if you're at f4, you have to go to ISO 6400. So it's a big deal when you're in low light. The only advantage the f4 has is a smaller, lighter lens, right? Maybe, I don't know, not by much, but it is a smaller, lighter lens. And I think it costs less too. It's like $699 versus, I don't know, $1,000. I mean, it's substantially less expensive. So I would say if you're finding yourself shooting at ISO 3200 all the time, I would go for the f2.8 so you can minimize your ISO by a full stop. If you're shooting at base ISO all the time, like less than 1,000 all the time, then the 12 to 45 Pro might be a better choice because it's just more compact and lightweight. But I don't think in terms of image quality there's any difference. Not enough that, you know, that would be a decision factor in your choice. The decision factor in this is really, can you live with f4 in low light, or can you do you want a smaller, lighter lens, or do you want to save some money and compromise on the low light capability? That's all. Oh, so you own the f2. And I assume you mean 2.8 Pro. Yeah, don't buy the 12 to 45 then. You're ahead of the game with the f2.8, no question. Now, if you need a second lens for a second camera body for some reason, maybe, but that's, you know, that's a very limited use case, niche type use. Yep, very good. Let me kill this. I use the EPL9. I don't have an EPL9, but the only choice you have is press, when you have the battery indicator showing, press and hold the info button, because I'll show you on my camera. If I go into, I know what you're talking about, right? Let me see. I can't put a card in there. But if I go into movie mode, let me see if it shows now. Well, I know what you mean, but basically press and hold the info button, and that should give you a clean HDMI signal out. I know some cameras don't do it on the, let me put the lens back on. But if I press and hold the info button, you know, I got all the icons, or I got the no card there. But if I press and hold the info button, that should give you a clean HDMI signal just like this. So try that. press and hold the info button and see if that gets rid of the icon. It doesn't work on all Olympus cameras like the EM10 Mark III and the Mark IV. I think they got rid of that, but someone told me they were able to make it work. I don't know. I don't know, but it should. Try it and see. If that's not the case, then the only other option would be, let me take this off of this mount. Wait. The only option would be, let's say, go into photo mode and, oh, you're not seeing my screen. So go into photo mode. So I'm in aperture priority, right? As you can see. And then go into the menu. Well, actually, you can probably do it from the control panel. Go into the control panel. Change your aspect ratio to 16:9. So you get a full screen. And then go into the menu, display, control settings, PASM. No, that's not it. What am I thinking? Menu, display, info settings, live view info. Here we go. And just turn these off. So now when I click the info button, if I had a memory card in here, the no card icon would be missing. It wouldn't be showing. But now what's happening is, you see I got the little square in there, right? So go into, let's see. No. It's probably in the AF menu. AF area pointer off, like so. Oh, come on. Oh, no. This is what you do. Go here and then change this to click the info button, change this to all points like that. And now the little square is gone. And also turn off face detect, like so. And that's as close as you're going to get. And if I click the info button, that's as close as you're going to get to a clean HDMI out if you have a memory card in there. If I had a memory card in, I can't put one in because I got a dummy battery. Well, let me try. Hold on. I might be able to squeeze one in. Yeah, it just fits. Hold on. There. Okay, click the info button. And now I got a clean HDMI out without pressing and holding the info button. So the other thing you need to do is, because the battery icon is not showing on mine because my battery is, I'm using a dummy battery, so it's fully charged. But when the battery starts to get low, that's when the battery icon typically shows up. So you need to go into, I believe it's utility. No, maybe in J. Let me see here. Wi-Fi. I didn't think it was here, D menu, but maybe. No. White balance color flash, recorder raise. It's got to be here. Utility. Oh, here, warning level. Turn this to -2. So that way, all these wires. Okay. So that way, when the battery icon won't come on until the battery's very, very low. And at that point, you need to change the battery. And if you're using a dummy battery, you should have no battery icon at all. There. So hopefully that helps. So for people that don't have the push and hold info button to get a clean HDMI out, basically go into photo mode and get an image only display in the view live view under the display menu. Turn your battery indicator down to -2 and change your autofocus point to all points and not just a single point to get rid of the black brackets. And then there's one more thing. Turn off face detect, because otherwise, if there's a face in the thing, you'll get a white box around the person's face. Kind of like this. If I turn face detect back on, like that, when I see, then you'll get a white box. So you have to turn face detect off also, right? Okay. All right, so that's, hopefully you got all that down. You can always move the slider back a little bit and play back what I just showed you. But all of those things should get you there to a clean HDMI out, even if you don't have the press and hold info button option. Let's see. Let me go all the way back up. Oh, yeah, I did address that. It seems to work. I want to double confirm it on a tripod. Hand holding it seemed to work. But I want to double confirm it with different camera bodies and different lenses, and just be absolutely sure. But the couple tests I did initially, it seemed to work perfectly. Set the lens to infinity. Oops. And just curious why they would release an F4 7 years later. Just probably market. I don't know. Just a shift in marketing. You know, they decided to make smaller, more compact lenses instead of these honking f2.8 Pro lenses that are all very large. They decided to make smaller f4 lenses that are more in line with the spirit of Micro Four Thirds, I think. So it's just a marketing shift, I think. And Marcia, you got back from the dentist. Oh, I need to go see a dentist. I'm not having any problems with my teeth, but I need to get a cleaning done. Oh, soft fun, yeah. Yeah, some of the Pro lenses, I think they do lack the extra function button and a focus clutch sometimes. So that was not a big deal for me. There's too many buttons on the damn camera anyway. But the focus clutch release, some people love it. For me, I could care less. It's more of a nuisance for me personally, the focus clutch, because I'm always leaving it off, and then I'll come home and I'm like, why are none of my pictures, in focus, right? The Believe me, it's happened. I'll take a lot of pictures and I'm like, damn, they were all out of focus. But I can't see with my dying eyes the live view if it's sharp or not. And I'm not checking in the EVF every time. You know, I'm not chimping every image to make sure it's tack sharp. But if it's on there, great. If not, I wouldn't miss it personally, a focus clutch or the function button. All I want a lens to do is to be sharp, you know. That's all I wanted to do. And Stephen Long, hello. Good to see you. And is there any way to use a tilt shift adapter with a vintage OM lens on an EM1 Mark III? Tilt, yes. Tilting can be done. Shifting is a little bit trickier. The problem being, this is my EM1 Mark III. The problem is, if you look closely, you know, we have the prism hump here, or the EVF hump. I don't know. It's not as easy to see on this camera as others. But there's a hump right here, a little bit of a lip, right? Maybe if I show it this way. Yeah, you see this lip right here that sticks out? So the problem is, tilting is simply this or this. No problems, left, right, top, bottom, because the base doesn't change. But with shifting, you may be able to shift, you know, horizontally, right, this way. But if you want to shift up and down, this is where the problem comes in, is because it's going to hit the EVF. So if you're getting a shift adapter to shift up and down, it's very unlikely it's going to work. But it will work if you can shift it horizontally, but not vertically or at angles, because of this little lip here sticking out on the EVF. It's just gonna, yeah, it's gonna hit that. So when you look at tilt shift adapters online, they'll tell you you can't use this with the EM1 Mark II or the EM, you know, they'll tell you certain OMDs you can't use it with Olympus, and it's primarily because of this little hump. Now, if you have the Pen F is flat on the front, no problems with the tilt shift adapter. But that's the problem with shift adapters. You're talking about tilt and shift. They're two different things, right? Tilting is angling the lens. Shifting is sliding the lens up and down, left and right. So that's the only challenge you have with the EM1s. Other cameras, you know, that are more range finder type styles, you don't have a problem. And I guess some of the Panasonics, that lip is a little higher up from the base of the lens, so that doesn't have any problems. But with the OMDs, definitely because of that lip, you know, this little bit of a lip here causes a problem with shifting up and down. All right. Let's see. Recent discovery. Newsflash. The 40-150 Pro Lens tripod collar fits the 4/3 to micro 4/3 perfectly. So you can use that old Zuiko lens. Okay. I kind of missed that or forgot about that, but good to know. Thanks for sharing that. And Lauren says, I've never bought a camera which failed that I can recall. So I have to speak up to this. My Pen F failed like a month after I bought it. It kept shutting off for no reason. Got covered under warranty in 5 days, no problems. My EM5 Mark III failed twice for different reasons. Both covered under warranty, you know, and they've been perfectly fine ever since. Like the Pen F now is 5 years old, I think. At least four, but I think it's closer to 5 years now. No problems since that one incident. And my EM5 Mark III, I got repaired about a year ago. No problems since then. But yeah, I've had cameras fail and I had to get warranty work. And it looks like Dave Nelson walked in. Hello, Dave. Good to see you. Stanislav says, and Stanislav is very, what's the word I'm looking? He's a very smart guy. You're a very smart person, and you have a lot of technical knowledge, I think, that goes beyond anything I know about cameras and electronics. So let me see what you're saying here. If you have a prime lens that takes shots in low light conditions, then f4 zoom lenses are more preferable choice than f2.8. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Is basically, if you have prime lenses to handle the low light, then get the f4 lenses, right? You don't need the low light capability because you have it covered with the primes. That's a legitimate, argument, right? That you have low light covered with your primes, so just save some money and get the f4s. Save some money, time, save some money and size and weight with the f4s. I think is the logic, which is that would probably be my go-to logic as well, because I don't necessarily need the low light capability at all. But if I do, I have primes that'll cover that. So that's a valid point. Everybody's different. They'll have different reasons for wanting different things because, like, if you're doing video work, you definitely want to get the fastest lens you can, for video work with a constant aperture. So I would say for video work, I would prefer an f2.8 to an f4 any day of the week. But for photography, then it's more of a balance, right? Um, Between what you already own, what your needs are, etc. But definitely something to think about. And it says here, thank you for your help. I was looking at many videos and you helped me in just a few minutes. I intend to purchase the Laowa 7.5 to test it in real estate and maybe the Mikey 25 for some portraits. Yeah, I 7.5 is a great focal length for real estate photography. My only problem is it's a manual focus. If you don't mind manually focusing in real estate, you'll be okay. But for me, autofocus is really critical because I have to work fast, right? I really, sometimes I need to be in and out of the property in 1 hour. And if I had to manually focus that property, yeah, I would not get it done in an hour. If it was a property I knew I could take an extra half an hour to shoot, then I would be fine with manual focus. Although I don't like it, I would be fine with it. I could get away with it, but I can't get away with it when, especially if you have more than one job booked in a single day. If you have 2-3 jobs lined up for a single day, you don't want to be manually focusing, every single room. Because once you set up your tripod, you can take about 5-6 shots, right, or more, once the autofocus is set. But to have to manually focus every room, and you typically do, about a dozen different rooms, right? That could add, easily 15 to 20 minutes to your photo shoot overall. If you spend a minute focusing, that's 15 minutes, right? That you spend auto focusing instead of taking the shots. So, but I'm glad I could help you with, I think it was the battery icon thing. And Rob Freeze. Yeah, I'm really good at being a statue man. Like just now, right? the thing didn't freeze. So if you guys keep typing comments, well, I guess that's on from your point of view. It's, well, no, since I have it right here, as long as that's moving, the stream is okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Jacques. Uh, sometimes I just don't know till I see it on the monitor and I'm like, damn it, or jackpot, you know. Usually I'm okay with the autofocus, but uh, they are a little pricey, but I think uh, that's why I think they're a fair value. I wouldn't say they're a good buy or an excellent buy, but they're fair. It's fair. I always wait for a sale or buy it secondhand. I'd say 2/3 of my lens inventory is all secondhand or was on sale. I can't think of a lens I paid full price for. Um, I paid almost full price for my 12 millimeter f2. It was like $50 off, so I paid $6.99 or $6.49, some whatever the price was. I only got $50 off, so like 7 or 8%. I think that's the only lens I paid full price for, practically. But other than that, I usually buy them secondhand or uh, if they're on sale in a major way. Yeah, and this is a very true statement. They will look sharper on your live view on your camera than they will on your monitor a lot of times because your live view doesn't have the pixel pitch to show the blurriness. Um, you have a lot fewer pixels, so it's always going to look sharp. That's why I like these EVFs now that have 5 million pixel or dot EVFs now, the very high resolution EVFs. It helps a lot with critical focus, being able to see every single or as many pixels as you can. Oh yeah, the original. If it's the original EM5, if it doesn't have a live HDMI out, yeah, I don't know that camera that well, but that sounds about right. A lot of the old Olympus cameras didn't have live HDMI out. They only do play pictures or play movies, but not live HDMI out. And you're welcome, Amy. Amy says thank you. You're welcome. And oh yeah, when we were talking about, I think this is related to the manual focus lenses for HM. Yeah, magnify is also a good feature to have. So assign magnify to one of your focus function buttons as well as the peaking button. So you'll have a magnify button and a peaking button. In my video, I do that. I just forgot to do it here. But yes, thank you. That was for HM, I believe. And Jock is asking, what pro lens is there a particular function you like to set the LNF function? Me personally, I never use it, so I would say none. Um, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick manual focus. You know, have it switch to manual focus or something. But I never use it, so I can't. I don't have an answer. My answer is I don't have one that I set it to. Because I rarely use my 12 to 40 f 2.8 Pro. I rarely use that lens to begin with, so I don't even think about the function button on it. And I don't think any of my other lenses have a function button, so that's also part of the reason. And Lauren says, those failures are not normal. Perhaps Olympus has an issue with quality control. Your delivery man dropped the box as he ran up the tree. Ellie's doing well. She's out guarding the yard. She's been slacking a little bit lately, so She's out there, I assume. Ellie! Yeah, she's outside. My EM5 Mark III I bought in store at my favorite camera store, District Camera. And my Pen F I also bought at District Camera in store. So maybe the delivery guy dropped it to their location before giving it to me. But I bought those in store. And Lauren went to go eat. I get that. And what's this? It says, what looks in focus in the EVF or screen is not always pin sharp when I get home. Yeah, that goes back to my, it's because the EVF and the live view screens are low resolution. So you're not going to see, critical focus. You're going to have a problem. So you have to use magnify. Then when you have it in magnify, then you can achieve critical focus because now it's magnified, which, offsets the low resolution of the EVF and the live view. And George says, how so you keep the focus locked so the AF doesn't act for every shot? You would probably have to do back button focus. Just off the top of my head, assign a button like a function button to do the focusing so it's separate from the shutter button. That would be the way to do it. So I'm not sure which camera you have, but I'll show you on the EM10. Let me try to get to the right screen because it's a little tricky. Oh, I got no screen. Hold on. How come there's no power? All right. So on the EM10 Mark II, and it's very similar across the OMD line, you go into the menu button and, oh God, my battery's jiggling a little bit. Hold on. Menu, go into AF, MF, go to AEL, AFL, and for single point autofocus, and you can set it differently for each focus mode, either single or continuous or manual. But for single, set this to mode 3, like this. So now when you half press the shutter button, that will lock exposure. Fully pressing will take the picture, but the AEL button will now become the autofocus. So I'll click OK here. And then you can do the same thing for continuous autofocus. Do mode 3, like so. Now, there's no AEL AFL button on the EM10 Mark II. So you have to additionally go into the button menu here and assign AEL AFL here. So now the function 1 button is set to AEL AFL. So what I can do now is focus, say, oops, hold on. That's the record button. I can focus over here. Please, where's my, oh, this is the function 1 button. I can focus over here. Now I can move the camera anywhere. This is not a good lens to demonstrate with because it's such a high aperture. Let me see. I'm at f5.6. All right, so I can focus maybe here. So I'm going to push the function button, and now I'm focused here. And if I go up here, you can see the camera doesn't change. Oh, seriously, it's because I have it in live view. Hold on, I got to change one other thing. AF, MF, make sure this is off. Full-time AF. turn that off as well. Now we're good. So now when I push the function 1 button, it'll focus here. And if I move up here, you can see it doesn't refocus. So I can take pictures here, here, wherever. Then if I want to refocus, I push the function button again, and it'll refocus up there, but it's not focused here. See, it doesn't change focus. And I can take a picture if I want, like that. Well, dang it, I'm in self-timer. Hold on. Let me put this in a regular. So if I take a picture here, it's in focus. But if I go up here and I take a picture, you can see it didn't automatically refocus. So that's how you have to separate the shutter button, the focusing from the shutter button, and assign back button focus. Well, it's called back button focus more commonly than it is reassigning the AEL button. So hopefully that helps. You have to separate the autofocus function from the shutter button. So you would be effectively doing back button focus. All right. Then Marco says, I'm about to get the 12 millimeter in a deal with the 45 f1.8 and 17 f1.8 for wow. I paid $600, give or take, for my 12 millimeter alone. I paid $250 for my 17, and I paid $200 for my 45. So I paid $450 plus $6. I spent like $1,000 for the same thing. That is, oh my God, that's a killer deal. I hope they all work and are tack sharp, you know, no problems. Man, that's a killer deal. That's like, you know, buy as is, you know, for parts pricing. You know, that is not buying working lenses pricing. That's buying for parts type pricing. So that's killer. Man, I envy you. I'd probably buy them if I got that deal, even though I already have them, and resell them. You double your money, guaranteed. And Olympus OMD cameras really need to look to provide better focusing screen for manual focusing. Our old 35 millimeter cameras were much easier manual focus as they had a decent yeah, that was all in the prism, right? Yeah, I mean, the best we can do, I can think of, is the peaking and magnify that we have now, but it's not like the old prism days. And you could change the prism screens and get different focusing type action. That was, yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, so you're going to resell those. So you already, the 17 millimeter alone should almost pay for all of it. And then the 45 on top of that. That's amazing. Yeah, the old split screens. Yep. My Minoltas have it. I need to take my Minolta out. I'm just craving to shoot some film. And Jock, you're welcome. I'm glad I could help. I already forgot what question you asked me, but I hope I helped. And Rick says, I do like we can use autofocus to get almost there. Then with the appropriate camera settings, we can manually fine tune. I know there's times when the autofocus just misses a little bit, and it's frustrating sometimes. And System Natura has an idea for the function button on the lens. Of course, this is like a $1 million lens, right? The 150 to 400. But assign it to manual focus as there's no manual focus clutch. So, and that's what I was thinking, right? If I use the lens function button, I'd probably set it to use it for manual focus. Because that would be very intuitive, right? the focusing mechanism on the lens being in the function button. And Mooring says, I have the EM5. Oh, so you were asking about the, yeah, so you would do the same procedure on the EM5 Mark II as I just showed you here, but the EM5 Mark II does have a dedicated AEL button on it, so you wouldn't have to assign a function button. You just have to make sure the AEL button is assigned to AEL, but by default, you shouldn't have to change the assign a function button on the EM5 Mark II. And Dave says, takes me minutes to remember what menu was what. I know. But my God, you know, I've been making videos, tutorials for 4 years, 5 years now, and then I go out and I photo walk, you know, and use it professionally. So I'm like using a camera every day. So it's like just second nature to me. I mean, I have a little trouble switching cameras sometimes because they did rearrange the menu a little bit. But I can usually find exactly what I want. And that's why these like settings you may have missed type videos that I made, these last two, came to mind, because little things like setting the delay timer on your high-res shot mode, you know, that's an easy thing to miss if you're not looking for it. But because I do it all the time, you know, I was like, oh, this might be helpful for some people. System. Yeah, Rick is funny. Yeah, our cameras are so complex now. We have to be astronauts to use them, right? Yeah, I agree about this statement. It sucks when you're trying to go through grass for effect. Yeah, and AF has a hard time. Yep. And Chandra Sekar Virapan. Chandra Sekar Virapan. I know I said that slowly, but hopefully I got it correct. I have the M5 Mark II with the 25 millimeter or another 12 to 40 Pro. I shoot in P mode with some changes to other settings, which I cannot recall. My question is, even though I get reasonable pick, let me see. Here's the rest of it. With shutter speed 1/30th or 1/40, not sure it does go to 1/100th. Not sure it does go to 1/100th or 1/25th kind of shutter speed. Maybe I missed something basic. Please advise. So I have the M5 Mark II with the 25 or the 12 to 40. I shoot in P mode with some changes to other settings. My question is, even though I get reasonable pick, with a shutter speed 1/30th or 1/40, not sure it goes to 1/100th, 1/25th kind of shutter speed. Maybe I missed some basic. Please advise. Still not sure what your question is. So you get reasonable shots at 1/30th and 1/40th, but you're wondering if you can go to 1/100th or 1/125th kind of shutter speed. Okay. So in P mode, yeah, it's going to pick the shutter speed. What I would recommend is, let's say you're at 1/30th. If you're shooting at ISO 200, in program mode, you can force the, let me just double check. This is what I would recommend, is you need to raise your ISO, but let me just double check. You can do it in program mode, because I never use program mode. This one. So if I go into the super control panel, Well, let me put it in program mode. So yeah, I'm getting 1/25th of a second here, right? Yeah, you can force it. So I assume right now that you're using auto ISO. So what I would do is raise the ISO until you get to 1/100th of a second. And whoops, see if you can lower the aperture down as low as you can. So now I'm in PS mode. You see how it says, see where it goes from P to PS? That means program shift. So I'm forcing the aperture to be wide open at f5.6 on this lens, because I can change it higher. But I can move the aperture down and I can raise the ISO. Now I'm at 1/25th of a second. And that would be the only way to do it, really. That's the only way to do it if you're in program mode. So basically it sounds like you're shooting in low light. So first do the aperture, see if you can lower the aperture to f2.8 or f1.8, depending which lens you have, because you have the 25 and 12 to 40. And then start raising your ISO to get to the shutter speed that you want. And the other thing you can do, because you don't want to have to set the ISO every time you take a shot, is you can go into the menu. Hold on, Control 5, right? Okay. Well, the other thing you can do is go into the menu and go to, let me think, it's going to be under E. So in the E menu, ISO. You can use auto ISO, okay? But in the ISO auto set, change this range from, make this, 6400. You can go higher if you want, but 6400, and then set the minimum at, say, 1600. So if you see that ISO 2000 is kind of giving you the shutter speed you want, and you've lowered the aperture as much as you can, in program shift mode, go into your auto ISO setting and change it to this, and that'll give you a little more flexibility, so you don't have to adjust the ISO for every single shot. You can work within a certain range ISO. So now you can see that it's dropped down to 1/60th of a second because I'm using this lens, but you can see the ISO's, I don't know if I can get that to stay on. Hold on. There. If I point at the lamp, yeah, that's the best way to do it if you're going to work in program mode. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's the right. So I hope that makes sense. So if you're going to work in program mode, try to lower your aperture to the lowest it can be, and then set up the auto ISO to be within that range. So it's going to take a little bit of planning and guessing, but that should get you there. Okay. It's jumping on me. And it says here, if you assign LN to manual focus and have back button focus on the AL, AFL, then even with the lens and manual focus, pressing the AL. Oh, okay, yeah, that's handy. That's true. That's true. Because because of this. Okay, it's very specific reason that works that way, but you can make it not work that way. Let me go back to my screen here. Is when you go into the AF menu and you go to the AEL button, there's a manual focus setting here. And you can change, if you put this in mode 1, that should not be the case. If you put this in mode 2, or I'm sorry, if you put it in mode 3, then yeah, then your back button focus and everything will work just like you described. So you have to make sure that the manual focus is set to mode 3 as well. Otherwise, that will not be the case, which I think you kind of said, but I just wanted to clarify, because back button focus is sort of a technique versus the AEL button being assigned to mode 3 is a very specific setting for the Olympus cameras. So it's I just wanted to clarify that point is all. Okay. But your statement overall is 100% accurate. It's just I just wanted to be a little bit more specific is all. Oh, you mean it does not go to very low shutter speed? Yeah. Okay. Generally, when you're in program mode, the camera is not going to lower the shutter speed below the ideal shutter speed for the focal length that you're at. So say, for example, you're using your 25mm lens. It's going to try and stay at 1/50th of a second, 1/60th of a second, or faster. It's going to do that by default because that's how the camera is programmed to minimize camera shake. So it's going to try and avoid going to a lower shutter speed, and then it's going to raise ISO instead. It's going to raise the ISO or lower the aperture. It's going to try and work with the exposure. Once you get down to about 1/50th or 1/60th of a second, it's always going to try and raise the ISO or lower the aperture to get the shot. But then if the light gets too low, you've hit your ISO cap, you've hit your aperture cap at f1.8, then it will start to lower the shutter speed. But even then, it may stop, and then your image will just be too dark, right? That is a limitation of using program mode, is it will not allow the shutter speed to go too low. So you don't think I'm a liar. Let's just verify. Let me rephrase it. Let's just verify this, okay? So I'm in program mode, and I'm going to set my ISO back to, I don't know, 250. So, and then let me adjust my exposure comp so it's normal. Well, actually it is letting me get lower shutter speeds, but I'm in program shift. Yeah, probably what you need to do in your case is lock the ISO to lower values, right? Now I'm getting slower shutter speeds. And if I zoom out, there's more light. Yeah, I'm not having this problem in program mode. So the other option would be is like we did before. If you want to work in auto ISO mode, oops, go into exposure. What I would do is limit this to smaller numbers, like between 800 and 200. And now, let me see what happens if I make it too bright. Whoops, wrong button. If I go too bright, too dark, if I put my hand over it, why is the ISO locked? Hold on, I'm not in auto ISO, that's why. There, okay. Yeah, see, in low light, it definitely still goes down. So, I mean, I'm really trying to figure out exactly your question. You know, if you're saying it's not going to very low shutter speeds, but I'm not having any problems, as you can see. But if you want to work, basically the camera, the auto ISO is probably going too high, right? So you probably want to limit the auto ISO so it doesn't go so high. And that's more useful if you're on a tripod, so you don't have to worry about motion blur and stuff. But try limiting your ISO or forcing an ISO number instead of using auto ISO. I hope that's right. But feel free to ask me again in a different way so that I get your question, because maybe I'm not getting your question, but I think that's all you need to do. Yeah, auto ISO, definitely limit the range of your auto ISO. So if you are using auto ISO, make sure your settings, you want to limit it to say between 200 and 800. Then that'll force the shutter speed to slow down. But when you see things starting to blink like it was in my display there, that's telling you that the camera's not able to do what you want it to do. It'll take the picture at those settings, but the image won't be exposed the way you were expecting. But yeah, auto ISO settings, the auto set that I showed you, that's the way to control or try to get lower shutter speeds, I think. I think that's what you need. And Wally is here. Hello, Wally. I just bought the Zuiko 1.8 fisheye. For some reason, I can only use single shot or single shot in silent. No high pro capture or high res on the fisheye. Really? Which camera do you have? I guess you're going to have an EM1 Mark II at the very least, which I can't use because I'm using it for the stream. But let me get my EM1 Mark III in my fisheye. I'm pretty sure I've never used those features with my fisheye, but let me put it on and see if I can duplicate your problem here. Big old fingerprint on there. Okay. And need a battery. Okay. All right, so and I can actually switch HDMIs. One second. Full HD 60p. All right, let's try that. All right, there's my fisheye. And let me get a full screen for you. So I'm going to go into just regular aperture priority. And so the first thing you said is there's no single shot or single shot silent. There's single shot and single shot silent. I'm not having that problem. Let's do pro capture. Yeah, pro capture high. And yeah, I just took a bunch of pictures. Single shot, no problem. So what I can't imagine. The only thing I can think of is maybe you have the fisheye correction turned on. So that is going to be in here, right? It's not. Hold on. I forget. Honestly, I forget where the fisheye correction button is. Here it is. If I turn this on, and what are the other options here? Oh, all right. Yeah, that's not important. All right. So fisheye correction on. I can still take a picture here, and I can do pro capture. And then you also said you can't do high res shot, right? So let me try that. Ooh, high res shot is missing. Is it grayed out, or is it? Oh, it's not in here. So let me turn high res shot mode on. Display. And you know, this is the other menu setting in D1. Make sure all your shutter settings are turned on, like this. But where is high res shot mode? High res shot mode's turned on. So if I got fisheye correction on, I can't use the high res shot mode. But I can use pro capture. Looks like. Oh no, pro capture is disabled. So pro capture and high res shot mode is disabled when you have the fisheye correction on. But if you turn the fisheye correction off, like so, then yeah, high res shot mode comes back, pro capture comes back. Okay. So that would be the issue for the high res shot mode and pro capture. If you have lens eye correction turned on, it will not work. But for single shot, it should work whether you have fisheye correction on or off. Oh, wait a minute. You're saying you can only use single shot. Okay, duh. So yeah, pro capture and high res is because you have the fisheye correction on. That's all. Because fisheye correction is a JPEG only output. So I guess high res shot and pro capture rely on raw images for some reason. I don't know exactly. But turn off fisheye correction and they should work. All right. Did I see Canon announce the new camera 7000? Oh, the R3? Yeah, I saw it. I didn't know it was 7000, but I suspected as much. I don't know. You know, I guess if you're a professional, those kind of cameras make sense. But like sports action type professionals, I guess it would make sense for. But I can't imagine just the average enthusiast that has an average income would buy such a thing. I mean, seriously, I could do all my professional work, all of my personal enthusiast type stuff with an EM10 Mark II and the select lenses. I can do everything professionally and personally. And you can buy a whole setup for like $500, EM10 Mark II and a few lenses. And you can do I could do 99.9% of everything I ever need to do. Professional, I would need a wide angle lens, so that would be another 500 to 1,000. But man, $7,000 for a camera body, that's a whole different level of photography that would justify a price like that, right? Just a whole different level or genre that would justify that kind of pricing that I can't even fathom. Oh, camera alone is still $6,000. Come on. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying that's a whole level of photography that I would never need such a thing. It's kind of like buying a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, right? You know, 99.9% of us can get by with a Hyundai Sonata or something, right? Like just any regular car. It'll do everything we need to do, point A to point B. But when you buy a car like that, that's a whole different level that you would need something like that. And by need, I mean need it, not just have it for fun. But if you have the money, people buy it for fun, right? So I don't know. The camera price is just crazy. That's crazy. To me, it's crazy to spend that kind of money unless you have a very specific need or you just have so much money and it doesn't matter. But you're not going to get better pictures as an average person out of it. And Daniel Tudor says, yes, your advice was very useful. 10 macro ring. Oh, yeah, the extension tubes, right? Plus the 75. Also tried the 100 and came up with some very good close-up shots. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, those macro extension tubes are awesome. I used some last week on some photo walks. And Rob Shoe Photo says, I talked to a friend and sold her Olympus and kept a Sony A7C and a few lenses is coming back to Olympus because she doesn't like the big lens and can't find quality small glasses. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, every system has their audience, right? And Olympus, I think, fits me very well, extremely well for everything. And apparently for her, Sony was not the right fit. The lenses were too big and expensive and whatever. Some people, they might, like I said, that's why it's great to have all these choices, right? But at the same time, I just feel like Olympus, if I can use it professionally in the work that I do, and I've not found any limit. I've not hit any limitations using Olympus gear that I'm capable of. You know what I mean? So the fact that it's a small and lightweight and compact is the primary reason I got it. But then the plus side, there's very few limitations with it also. That's why it just drives me nuts. I can tell you, I watched a video yesterday. I got to tell you about this video. Let me catch up on the chat, then I'll tell you about this video I watched. Dave says, get voice menu commands and they'll sell like crazy. Maybe. A Siri camera, you guys. We'll get there. As a 5-year-old using a Kodak Instamatic to photograph my thumb on Blackpool Beach, I never had all these problems. What's all the fuss about? What do you want so many settings for? I know. I mean, the core of photography, you don't need all these settings, right? Shutter speed, aperture, ISO, maybe autofocus, and you're done. Everything else is a luxury, really. and a light meter, built into the camera. Beyond that, these are all just fancy features, right? But they do, pro capture is one of the best features. It really does allow you to get pictures that you could normally never get. So I'm definitely thinking about, and actually Rick suggested this to me, but I'm thinking about focusing on individual features of our cameras and how they're best used, so you can get the most out of your camera. Like Pro Capture definitely is a very powerful feature in our cameras that just never got enough attention in the media. But it lets you get shots that you can't do with any other camera. And Jerky says, back button focus is good for BIFF or other fast moving objects. For casual photography, normal focus is better. That's how I like to, yeah, definitely for BIFF and stuff. Yeah, having back button focus is very handy. But I'm not a birder, so 99% of the time I'm in just normal mode. I rarely use back button focus myself. I might have to start to, because I've had some issues in my professional work where I've had to refocus and I lost focus, but didn't know till I got home and saw the pictures on the computer. I'm like, damn it, that picture's ruined, and it's cost me 1 or 2 shots. It hasn't cost me a job, thank goodness, but man, if you miss focus at a wedding and you don't realize it till you get home, that would be bad. Fortunately, I'm just doing properties, so I take multiple angles of the same room, and sometimes one angle that I took of that room was out of focus and I can't use it even if I wanted to. But fortunately, in the work that I do, I take multiple angles of the same room, and then I'm fine. I can use the other shots, but oh, did Gigafish walk in? I didn't see. Oh, here. And then Brian Allison. I'm sorry, I missed these other chat questions. I need to back up a little bit. Gigafish says, "Are you a fan of back button focus?" No, I just answered that kind of indirectly. Yeah, I'm with you. I prefer the shutter button autofocus, but certain types of photography, back button focus is very handy. Birds in flight, definitely. It's I find it easier to use. I mean, do I switch to back button focus when I see birds in flight? Normally I don't, but if I did, I'd probably have a better hit rate. And then Brian Allison says, can you recommend a tripod that can be used with the battery door open for use with a dummy battery? What tripods do you prefer? Oh, okay. I like the Mi Photo brand. I have like 3 of those. I don't like the Manfrotto consumer level ones. They're not that rigid, but the high end, the Pro X versions or whatever, the Manfrottos are very good. So Mi Photo is really good. And as far as, like, I know what you're talking about. Like, you have, like, I'm using a battery on this one, right? The key to making sure you can use a tripod with the battery door open is you need to have a very small Arca Swiss plate, right? So that it doesn't have to be that small, but you need to be able to slide the camera to the right or to the left on the Arca Swiss mount. And then you need to use an Arca Swiss plate attached to the camera, which every tripod comes with. So just and all the Mi Photos, as far as I know, Mi Photo brand are all Arca Swiss plate tripods. Where is my Mi Photo tripod? All right. So this is my me photo. I've had this for about 5 years now. But that's the actual brand, me photo. And then if you look at the tripod head, hopefully, well, let me get my face out. That's an Arca Swiss mount. Okay. And what that allows me to do is, let me get it down to a level so you guys can see. And I prefer the twist locks personally, but it's just personal choice. But what this allows me to do is, if you have an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom, and I'll rotate this around, you can slide the camera left and right on this plate. So my battery door is over here, so I could slide this all the way over to the right, and then I can open the battery door and stick whatever battery in here. So that's how I would do it. So you need to get a long plate for the bottom, a long Arca Swiss plate. It doesn't matter what size this is. This is going to be pretty. Did you guys lose me? Sorry, I'm really behind on the. I lost my place. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I'm trying to find my place in the chat so I don't miss anybody's questions. But I think I lost it. I vanished for a moment, so I'm back. Okay. And Errol says, I have an L grip from AM5 Mark III. Will give someone if they want it free. Oh, okay. Cool. Anyway, I have your comment still up, Brian, but I can't find it on the chat. But yeah, I use these plates, the grips that combine with the Arca Swiss plate on the bottom, so that I have sliding room. And that's how I would do it. And that's what I do for all of my cameras, is I buy a full metal plate for the bottom, but it's usually integrated into a grip. So I get a grip with a full plate on the bottom. The EM1 Mark III and the EM1 Mark II, it's hard to, you can't find a full bottom plate with a grip because the EM1 Mark II and 3 already have a grip, but you can still find the full plates that go on the bottom that give you sliding room. So that's what I would do. So it's more about the plate that you buy than the tripod. That's what I would, that's my short answer or long answer or broken answer. I don't know if you got it or not because I didn't realize the screen dropped out. And Dave says, someone should contact OMDS. I'm sure they know who I am. You know, I wouldn't mind being like a consultant, independent consultant to help them with stuff, but I'm doing all their work anyway, you know. So why would they bother to pay me if I'm going to do it for free? But yeah, I would rock. I need a wrist strap. That's true. So if anybody had questions after Brian and I missed it, I'm so sorry, but I lost my place here. Um, oh, thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Some discussion on AFL and back button focus. Uh, the camera drop. I don't know why the camera blanked out. I think it was the software, the Melon app that I use, and not my computer. Okay, I'm almost caught up. A link to the Arca plate. Um, Depends what camera you have, Dave. Which camera you want it for, then I can give you a link. Because it's a different plate for different cameras. And I'm talking about the plates that come with a grip, right? Okay. And Arrow says, I have the grip for the M5. Okay, so I saw that. 30 seconds of blue screen. And does anyone have a link for the bottom plate of the M12 that has an opening in the bottom? Yes, I do have that link. And then Jock maybe has a question. Thank you in advance for all your tutorials. You have made me watching many tonight setting up my M1 Mark III. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm glad to help, and I appreciate the donation there. That helps me out more than you guys realize. Every little bit, man. Okay, let me give Dave this link. Let me find it on Amazon, and it's in my orders page. E-M1. Let's see if it's still available. Currently unavailable. Does anyone else have one? Let me just do a search. Well, I'll give you the link to the one that I bought, but it's not available right now. So I can show you. It's this one here. I bought it last year, but this will fit the M1 Mark II and the M1 Mark III. And this is what it's like on my EM1. Let me switch back here. Let me give you the link real quick. Because there's a little bit of a caveat here. Okay. So there's the link. I just put it in the chat. This plate is not very good by itself. So what I had to do was I put some like a thick double-sided tape in between the plate and the camera, so that it'll stay very solid and rigid on the camera. Because when I'm putting this on my tripod on and off, it would loosen and not be secure. Because it doesn't have the little pinholes that lock into the camera body to make this more secure. So I just put some a little bit thick double-sided tape like here and over here on the plate, and then tightened it down, and now it's rock solid. I have no problems with it getting loose ever. But if I didn't do that, this was getting loose on me all the time. So after I did that, this plate works perfectly fine. And there's a little space here to put an L bracket if you want. I don't use the L bracket myself, but the bottom plate I do use a lot. The only problem, the other issue with this plate is that it doesn't have a 1/4-20 screw on the bottom either. So I can't attach anything else to this or mount this onto something that has a 1/4-20 screw. Unlike this camera, you can see this actually has a 3/8 screw and a 1/4 screw plate built into the plate. So if I don't have an Arca Swiss plate, but I have something else that's 1/4, and I'll give you an example. Is like when I use these tabletop tripods, it's a 1/4 screw. I can't use this tabletop tripod with this plate because there's nowhere to screw it into. So what I have to do is I have to screw in another Arca Swiss plate on top of this to mount on top of that. And you know, selfie sticks too, right? I can screw this directly into the base of this camera like so, right? And use it. Whereas I can't do that with, not that you would ever do it, but I just wanted to show you there are things. I would love to be able to use this tabletop tripod directly with my EM1. And I do, but I have to use a, where is it? Oh, I have it mounted on something, but I have to use a separate Arca Swiss plate. It's not the plate, but it's the mount, the Arca Swiss mount on top of this, and then I mount it. Okay. So I'm not saying don't get it. I'm just saying just be aware of those two issues with that plate. It gets a little loose unless you jerry rig it, and it doesn't have a 1/4 on the bottom. But the battery door opens, no problem. Yeah, see, Jerky has the same issue, right? He likes the ones that have extra screws on them. It's definitely handy. And then Soundgear is recommending small rig. So let me look at small rig. Last time I looked, small rig had nothing for Olympus on their website. You know, see, nothing here Olympus. And if I just type Olympus in their search, you know, you come up with all this generic stuff. They used to have an Olympus cage for the EM1 Mark II that was pretty nice. I should have bought it when I had the chance. Now it's gone. There's nothing. All right. Let's see. All right, last chance. Any other questions that I may have missed that I didn't answer? And if you're still here, I'm happy to try to answer them for you. Because I kind of had a little glitch a couple of times, and I lost my place on the Q&A or in the chat section. So I'll wait a minute for people to get their questions or put their thoughts together. But I'm going to wrap it up here soon because it's going on 2.5 hours. I'll just tell you about the. I watched a video about learn photography in 10 minutes, and it had like, oh, let me just find it on YouTube. I'm not criticizing the guy because I don't know him. I thought he presented his presentation and his yeah, learn photography in 10 minutes. 3.6 million views, 227,000 subscribers. Where's the right? I'll just show you. This video here. 3.6 million views. 227,000 subscribers. It was. I would not recommend this video to anybody that wants to learn photography, is my bottom line. It just is, it's so high level and so presumptive that you know what ISO, shutter, aperture is, or that you understand. Like when he talked about depth of field was totally wrong, or not wrong, but very very limited in perspective. And what I mean by that is, oops, this is my live view, my app that I've been using. This is what probably crashed for 30 seconds. Um, but yeah, it was, like he said, if you have a wider aperture, you get a shallower depth of field. And that's, like he talked about aperture, says it controls how much light goes into the camera. But he says, I want you to ignore that because aperture is all about depth of field. I'm like, that is not what aperture is all. Aperture is all about exposure. Depth of field, to me, is a side effect, potentially a side effect, because if you're shooting something that's far away, there ain't no depth of field, regardless of your aperture, you know. So it's a little. It was things like that, and the video is chock full of things like that, where there's just these assumptions about using shutter speed and aperture and ISO that I felt were just very just too simplistic. And the title saying "Learn photography in 10 minutes" is a total. If in this case, I feel like it's clickbait, even though it's not. It's not a clickbaity title, but it really, in my opinion, is borderline, because you don't learn photography in 10 minutes. You certainly don't learn anything from that video that is useful, in my opinion. So I'm criticizing the video, not the person, because I don't know the person at all. I thought he was a great presenter, and he had a sense of humor, and all of that. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy, but the video was just terrible, just not useful at all for somebody that wants to learn photography. Yeah, his depth of field was too shallow, that's for sure. Let's learn photography in 2 minutes a day, right? Because man, I in my classes, when I teach my classes, I spend a couple hours just talking about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. That's it. A couple of hours, and I'm just scratching the surface. And then I got another couple hours on the mode dial, and then I got another couple hours on what is it? Composition, and another couple. It's like, and yeah, I'm a little bit long-winded, but come on, these concepts are not cut and dry, that simple. They are just there's a lot more to shutter speed and aperture and ISO than just what he's talking about. There's so much more. I mean, the only thing he sort of got right was that ISO, the higher the ISO you get, the more grain you get. But then he showed a series of images from ISO 100 to ISO 6400, trying to demonstrate that you get more noise and grain when you go higher ISO. And I'm like, they all look good to me. I don't see any noise or grain all the way up to ISO 6400. Like, so even that's not a great example. It was just so simplistic, and I just can't believe that video got 3.6 million views. Let's see how many the like to dislike ratio. I'm curious. How come I'm not in the frame? 190,000 likes versus one. So it's got a 99% basically like ratio. It's just shocking to me. So no offense. I don't mean any offense, but I'm just telling people that if you want to learn photography, don't expect to learn it in 10 minutes is my point. Not, and that video is very misleading that you can learn photography in 10 minutes. Yeah, learn a language in 10 minutes. Which video? Oh, I'll show you. It was this one. This one here. Photography basics in 10 minutes. And this was done 2 years ago. 3.6 million views. Just shocking to me. how just, I mean, the presentation is really good. He's a very good speaker. He has a sense of humor. But my God, the information and the title of the video and all, it was just, yeah, I would not, I just can't believe it got 3.6 million views, you know. I could see a video like this getting this many views uh, if we're really good. Or, but if you got a couple 100,000 subscribers, you know, I would expect 20, 30,000 views on a video like this just because you have a loyal fan base. Just like a lot of my videos suck, right? They're just blah. But I still get 1,000 views because I have a subscriber base of 28,000 or whatever it is now. I'm always going to get a certain number of views regardless of how bad the video is because I have subscribers and a fan base, so to speak. But that video, he's getting a lot more views than his fan base. He's getting a ton of views. And I can't believe the like ratio is like 99%. You know, 1.8 thousand dislikes versus 190,000 likes. I just can't believe that something like that. Uh, just shocking, just blows my mind. So if you guys watch it, don't go to his channel and start putting bad comments and all that stuff. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about him at all. I'm just criticizing this particular video, and the content in the video is just unbelievably shallow. Like, it just doesn't cover anywhere near enough for anybody to understand what the hell is going on in photography. So learning photography, because the statement he made was 80% of photography can be learned in 20% of the time, or some weird analogy or weird ratio like that, some 80-20 rule in reverse. And I'm just like, seriously, this is unbelievable. Because, you know, I'm watching other videos to try to get better at teaching myself, right? I have to learn from the best. And I was like, wow, this video got 3.6 million views and a ton of likes. You know, maybe I can learn something about teaching photography to others from this video. And I was just so just disappointed in what I learned from that video. Because I learned nothing in that video that I could teach anyone else in a productive way, or any teaching technique other than smiling and being a little bit more entertaining. Definitely, I scored low on the entertainment level, right? I don't have a lot of great jokes or smile enough, but maybe that's why I got 3.6 million views. Maybe that's my problem. I don't have any jokes and I don't smile. I don't know. But in any case, 2-minute tip videos. Yeah, I can't. 2-minute tip videos. I don't know. I couldn't explain anything in 2 minutes that would, you know, that would make sense to anybody. Because there's just too many caveats. Too many caveats to photography, you know. Just my approach would be very different than his in teaching the basics of photography. Very, very different. My approach would be very different. But hey, he's got 10 times the subscribers, and that one video has more views than my entire channel and videos combined by far. I think I only got like 1 million combined total minutes views or something, whereas that one video is 3 times the volume my entire channel has. But still, and he's a young guy, right? So he's going to appeal to a younger audience. So he has a much bigger audience. I mean, I can analyze it to death. It doesn't matter. You know, I have what I do. My voice connects with you in a certain way. But it's just a video that struck me today as a total waste of time and not useful at all that I could see, despite the number of views and the like ratio. I can't explain an anomaly like that in photography. But yeah, I'd like to see him learn Olympus menu in 10 minutes. Yeah, how many of your viewers? Well, anyway, that's my rant for the day. Like I said, no offense to whoever that was. I'm definitely gonna check out more of his videos because I need to understand how he's connecting with his viewers. I mean, it may be totally different, and I'll never be able to adapt like that. But I'd like to expand my audience a little bit beyond what it is, and there's always something to learn from everybody, regardless of who they are. They could be a small channel, just starting out, or they can be a huge channel. There's always something to learn from someone, no matter who they are and where they are in their life. So I never discount a person based on their statistics, right? I always take the best I can from each person and put it in my own voice if I can. So all right, guys, I'm gonna call it here. I'm running out of steam, but thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it, and I'll be back on Thursday most likely with a photo editing live stream. And uh, hopefully, I'm tired. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for coming in today, and thanks for the donations today in the chat, the super chats and things. I appreciate that as well.